Hi, this is Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. My name is Jamie Krane. Thanks very much for joining us this week. Well, for our loyal watchers, you've noticed that we've been having a number of shows where we get a chance to interview the Pythons from the Pythons Pit. And Pythons Pit is a show or program that's going to be put on by the Rotary clubs here in Halton region. And it gives entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, students and adults, an opportunity to come in and pitch your product to 6 entrepreneurs who have the opportunity to bid and invest in your company. So it's going to be a great program. We have today another one of the Pythons. John Romano is here from Brook Breweries. It's going to be a great show. Stay right with us. Hi, thanks for staying with us. This is Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. I'm your host, Jamie Krane. Thanks very much for joining us this week. Well, we're chatting today with John Romano from Brook Breweries. John, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Well, glad you could make it. You know, as we talked a little bit before the show, we've had the opportunity to interview, I think, 3 of the Pythons so far. You're number 4. We're going to have the other 2 in a little while, but it's really unique how everybody's been so diverse. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, and the companies have been very diverse as well. Brook Breweries, I know I've been to Milton Curling Club. We've got lots of people at our curling club that love your product.
Well, thank you.
How did you become involved with the people from Python's Pit?
Well, they approached me, a couple of the Rotary members. I'm quite active with the Rotary clubs. We do a lot of fundraising with them and have been even before we were a brewery. And I guess a couple of them were pretty fond of my business tactics and techniques and the success.
Tactics, that's a good word.
And the success of Brook in the past couple of years. And they thought I'd be a good fit. And I think also, you know, being in the beer industry, I think a lot of kids think that's cool. And it'd be bringing a different element to the group. So
there's a certain mystique to it, I guess.
Who doesn't want anybody who owns a brewery, right?
That's right.
I'm your own best friend.
Yeah, your kids' friends must think, woohoo! Yeah.
Oh yeah, keggers all the time.
Now, obviously, the road to where you are now has been somewhat rocky sometimes.
Quite
like many
a journey.
Entrepreneurs, I'm sure it has. So let's step backwards a little bit. What's your background? Where did you go to school?
I studied engineering at Ryerson.
Engineering?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're running a brewery now.
And it's very mechanical, so I use it all the time.
Okay.
So it's actually pretty neat. And I spent yesterday in a machine shop getting a part made for my balling machine, which was giving us trouble. So it's amazing how I still use it. But I was in the aerospace industry. I've been in every airplane plant in North America. I've worked on most commercial aircraft, mainly landing gear, flight control. And at 27, I walked up to my boss of 12 years with him, and I was the VP of sales. I was traveling all over North America and quit my job. My parents, my
You quit
friend,
because?
I was tired of working for someone. I was getting stressed out. I felt I was underpaid for what I was doing. And at 27, I walked up to him and quit, and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, my parents, friends, thought I had the best job in the world. You just came from Boeing plant? Wow, that's so cool. Are you crazy? You quit your job today? I said, I'm not happy. And I walked up to them and I said, I'm opening up a homebrew store. And they went, what? You're opening up a homebrew store? You are crazier than I thought. And even my friends, they were coming down to help me build the place.
So this is back, what year was this?
1991.
91. So this is when the home brew thing was really big. Starting to come in with
And I was making beer and wine with my brother and my dad. It was a family hobby.
And teaching people how to brew their own.
So we were selling supplies. And Better Bitters became the largest home brewing center in Ontario and second in Canada within the first 4 or 5 years. But the first couple of years, oh my God, I made a quarter of my pay that I left.
Welcome to the world of self-employment.
Yeah, like never mind pay yourself first, I was pay yourself last. I was sponsoring hockey teams and baseball teams for kids and not even bringing home a paycheck because I wanted to be involved in the community. And we wanted to grow the U-Brew properly. We were doing so much beer at the time that we thought, okay, let's build a little brewery. We'll make ourselves our own beer juice. And on paper, you know, number crunching, it made total sense to build a little brewery and supply ourselves. Like, I own a restaurant and I buy so much prepackaged soup. This is crazy. Let's make our own soup. So I was making my own beer soup kitchen. And at the midst of building the brewery, You know, 24 for 24 showed up.
Not to mention any names.
Not to mention any names. And, you know, beer dropped $10 a case in price.
It's a very competitive market.
Huge competitive. And not realizing that I'm competing against the world. Like, I'm not competing with a guy down the street. You walk in a liquor store, the world is there.
Right.
And that didn't
Some
sign
big
up.
players. I mean,
Huge.
we're talking big multinational
But we never
corporations.
that was never the intent. We were going to make wort, sell it to ourselves. On paper, it was a no-brainer. And all of a sudden, okay, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in equipment, building now. What am I going to do? How hard can it be? Everybody loves us in town. Let's become a brewery, and we'll sell cases of beer out the front door.
Brook was born.
Brook was born. It was, you know, named after my kids, Nick and Brook, and, you know, what a great family story. Well, oh my God, I could not believe what I was up against.
Now, at the very beginning, did you see some real roadblocks that were put up by, you know, the big guys? Again, we won't name names, but
huge.
But I'm sure they want the market, right? As we mentioned.
People don't realize that what's happened to beer. The big breweries aren't beer makers anymore. They're branders. All they do is brand. When they create a beer, the brewmaster doesn't create the beer. The marketing department does it. They need the marketing. They put 30% of their operating budgets into marketing.
Wow.
When you buy a case of beer, $10 goes to marketing.
No kidding.
Where when you buy a case of craft beer, because we're considered a craft brewery, we put the money into brewing it. It's done by hand. It's like you've gone to your grandmother's for, you know, for dinner, Sunday dinner, and she spent all day in the kitchen producing that. You know, vegetables from the garden, everything done by hand.
There's a passion there.
There's a passion there. And we're artisan brewers. Where the big breweries, they're not. They're marketers. They make plain, simple blonde beer, and it's all about the marketing behind it. It's, you know, the trips, the games. You know, who can afford a Super Bowl this year? I think a commercial is going to be $3.5 million.
And who's in there? The beer companies,
the
right?
big beer companies.
Other auto companies and what have you too, but the beer companies are always prominent. What's Budweiser going to do? Are we allowed to say Budweiser? No? Okay, I didn't say Budweiser. What's Budweiser going to do during the Super Bowl this year? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah. And they're paying millions and millions of dollars.
And somebody pays for that.
You do every time you buy a case of beer. 80% of beer consumed is in someone's home. 80%, not in the bars and restaurants. 20% is in bars and restaurants. So every time you took a case of beer home, you overpaid by $10 and went to marketing. So the discount beers, they're not spending that money on marketing,
okay,
and that's how they did it.
Let's talk about marketing for a second, because that's one of the areas that you guys are excelling in, because you're doing it a little bit differently. So obviously you're not buying $30 million commercials during the Super Bowl. How did you start off? Obviously you had a limited budget at the very beginning. We all do. I know that pain. I'm there right now. But so how did you do things a little bit differently with less of a budget?
I think part of our success was my brother's my partner, Peter, and we spent, you know, most Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We were in LCBOs doing in-store tastings. We were at curling clubs doing tastings. You know, we had open houses at the brewery. We would get a tap at a local, you know, bistro or something, and we'd go in on a, you know, a Saturday night and walk around and give some small.
It's real hands-on stuff.
I was shaking hands, kissing babies, and been doing it for years. So we did a old-fashioned grassroots, because even, you know, I got a call today from the Toronto Star. Like, to put a small ad in the Toronto Star, it's thousands of dollars. I don't know if I'd get my return. You know, I think soon it's going to happen. And then, you know, we tried radio our first couple of years, and it backfired on us. Okay, let's put aside a couple of $1,000, spend some money on some radio. Well, our beer is not available everywhere. So here's a guy calling me from the outskirts of Hamilton. He heard my great jingle. Sure. He goes to his local beer store. Here. It's not there. And people don't realize that the big breweries own the brewer's retail. And a listing fee in the brewer's retail is $70,000. I can't afford to be there.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So Ontario, because I'm an Ontario craft brewery, the LCBO is owned by the government, so I pay as I play. I pay a little bit more, but as I sell them a case of beer, I give them a percentage. I sell them a case of beer, I'm not giving them that $70,000 up front.
That's a model that works, right? Because you can build that as you move along.
And once you get your brand to a certain level, then you can call the beer store, say, okay, boys, I want to do business with you now, because you're at that level now. But we're still not there. We have one brand that we're, you know, considering to put in the beer store, because there's definitely a demand there. And it's also, you know, you got to do stuff that's outside of the box. Like, you know, I'll get critiqued and laughed at with other little breweries and brewmasters in North America and stuff, because we did some very unique beers. And one of the first beers we launched was our Green Apple Pilsner. And it's basically fruit in beer. It's fermenting apple juice and fusing it into the beer. But it's an old German recipe, which our original brewmaster was myself and Harold, taught me. And you know, we get critiqued and laughed about because at the end of the day, it's a bit of a girly beer. But hey, if girls are buying it, I'm quite happy.
There's a market there.
There's a market there. And one of the second big beers we launched was a gluten-free beer. Again, one of my sales reps comes up to me, you know, 3-4 years ago and says, "Can we make a gluten-free beer?" And I'm like, "What the heck's a gluten-free beer?"
How do you make a gluten-free beer?
Well, I went to the liquor store, first of all. It was $18 for a 6-pack, and I went, "Oh my God, that's great! Like, that's huge difference in cost."
Some markup there.
So I went and bought a 6-pack of it, tried it, and went, "Wow, this is really, really bad. This has got no flavor to it." So a year later of trying to develop a recipe, we launched Ontario's first gluten-free beer. And it's been great. And now if you look at our portfolio, we've got a dozen great beers, but our main 2 big brands are our Apple Pilsner and our gluten-free beer.
You see, and that I think speaks volumes to being able to change your decision-making process. A phrase we've used here on the show many times is ready, fire, aim. Because you don't really know what direction you're going to be going until you start.
I had no
right?
idea. I was going to make a very drinkable ale and lager. Well, now I'm fighting the big boys. They're all doing that.
Yeah.
They're all making drinkable ales and lagers, right?
Well, gluten-free specifically, I mean, that's a big market there. And
it's a growing market.
I don't know whether I'd call it a fad or not, but certainly gluten has been identified as something that a lot of people just can't have. And maybe they would have liked to have had a beer and they didn't realize that it was the gluten in the beer that was causing the problem. So I think there's a huge market.
They're forecasting, like right now, only 1 or 2% of the general population has celiac disease, which is, you know, if they eat gluten, they're going to be in severe pain. But they're saying that in the next few years, in the next 5-10 years, 1 in 10 will decide to go gluten-free because it is a healthier way of living.
Well, yeah.
And there's so much junk in some of the food that we're eating that we don't realize, and people are feeling bloated and they're not digesting properly. And even I find myself, when I eliminate some of my gluten, I feel much better.
Yeah. I've heard that before too. Not just a huge intolerance to gluten, but certainly avoiding that from your diet has a lot of benefits.
So we were constantly outside of the box. Another beer we launched after that was an organic beer, because people don't realize they're drinking beer, they're drinking wine, they think it's healthy because it's made from grapes. Well, a lot of wine is not. It's made with concentrates and sugars and fillers. Like the main component, people think beer is made from barley. Well, you know what the main component of domestically brewed beer is now? Fructose invert corn syrup, corn sugar. Breweries use corn extract, and a little bit of barley. And they're not using, and we all know how, you know, corn's not exactly the best thing to be eating. And when you drink a domestic beer, that's what it's made from.
There's a lot of people don't know that.
They don't know that. And when you drink a craft beer, we only use barley. And we'll get comments and say, wow, this has a lot of flavor, or, you know, or it's a little bit more bitter. Well, we're using lots of hops and we're using lots of barley, and our beers are more flavorful. So they're not for everyone, and it is changing rapidly. When we opened up Brook 8 years ago, it wasn't even 1% of the market.
Right.
I was mentally abused on a daily, like there were days I'd be on the road. I was having a hard time in Burlington, because Burlington is in its own little bubble. I consider Burlington and Oakville kind of.
We love Burlington, just for the record.
And we do. I love the city I live in. I live and breathe it. But it's a hard sell there. So I started leaving town, going into Guelph and Toronto and Hamilton, where there's a little bit more homegrown sense going on. And I was feeling some love. But there were days I was driving home from a day of trying to sell beer going, what the hell did I get myself into, and where's a big rock I can crawl under?
Hold that thought for 1 second, because we just have to break to a commercial. But you know, that seems to be a common denominator with a lot of people, and we don't want to discourage anybody. We wanted to know that if you work really hard, you can work through those challenges.
It'll come.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stay right with us. You're watching Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. We'll be right back.
Tap into your arts community right here on TV Cogeco on Art and Soul.
Dear Children's Wish Foundation of Canada, Thank you for sending me Brewery the Lion. That means I'm going to get my wish, and that makes me really, really happy. Yesterday he was sad, but I told him it's okay, Brewery. There will make 2 more needles until my wish. I will send you pictures from the top of the Rocky Mountains. Love, Emily.
Imagine the difference a wish can make. Click on childrenswish.ca and give today.
TV Cogeco is truly local television, and it's available free whenever you want it. Enjoy the convenience of local current affairs, sports, health, entertainment, lifestyle, and specials anytime with TV Cogeco on demand. Just tune in to channel 602 to check out our new programs now. Join us and see why TV Cogeco is truly local television.
You're watching TV Cogeco, truly local television.
And we're back. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. My name is Jamie Krane, and we're talking with John Romano from Brook Breweries. Well, you know, what an exciting story, because as you know, part of what we're trying to do is motivate people to step out of that 9 to 5 and maybe try something that is going to be a little bit more fruitious, I guess, or bring them more return throughout the years. And, you know, yeah, the 9 to 5 is great, and certainly you can do well in that mold, but if you want to be really successful or you want to do something more or bring more to the public, you have to find a niche. You have to step out. So you've found it with Nickel.
Well, and I think you need to have passion. Like I have right now, the craft industry is booming. I get, honest to God, once a day, I have a young man that either wants to become a brewer, learn how to brew, or a young man that, you know, his dream is to, you know, open up his own brewery.
Some glamour there, right?
Oh, it's crazy what's happening right now, and the bubble's going to blow. But you know, I'm riding it right now. It's great. We can't make beer fast enough. We're shipping out of province now.
Okay, so let's talk about. So just before the break, we talked about, you know, the challenges that you see at the very beginning.
Well, the first 5 years were like, what the hell did I do?
So maybe during that time, if you had a choice, you may not have gone that direction.
No.
But things have turned around. So what was the catalyst, I guess, or the main catalyst that made things start to turn around?
I think it was never giving up. Like, you know, we worked really hard, my brother and I and our staff, and we believed in what we did, and it wasn't all, at the end of the day, you know, I'll tell people too, you never do it for the money. You have to believe in what you do, you have to love what you do, and you have to be passionate about what you do. And success will come from doing all of that stuff properly. If you love something that you do, like, you know, I'll get told all day long, we do tours, lots of tours on Saturdays, and people go, oh my God, John, you're so passionate when you're talking about what you're doing. You know, we love coming here, right? I'll have groups come in, they're on a bus tour going to wineries, and they stop off at a brewery because the tour guides know me. And they're like, what the hell are we doing at a brewery? I thought this was a wine route. And then by the time the guys leave, went, wow, this was so much fun, because I'm putting barley in their mouth and I'm talking about hops and hoppy beers.
It's a real education, right? There's a lot more to it than people think.
It is, and people don't realize. It's like, it's not just in beer, it's in food. Like, people don't realize you can buy shrimp and you can buy shrimp, and you can buy tomatoes and you can buy tomatoes. The way, you know, our food chain's going is, it's crazy. Stuff, it's forced to be grown or forced to be raised. And stuff that's natural is a big and growing thing, and that's
a big segment. People are looking for that today.
Yes,
right?
and people, and you know, we talked earlier, like, you know, when I opened the brewery, it wasn't even 1%. Well, now we have 10%. Craft is growing rapidly. It's growing 2, 3, 4% a year. People are like they're aware of it, and they're like, wow, this is all right. This tastes okay, and it's only made from barley, and it's been hand done. Like, and we do some neat stuff. We do pumpkin beers, and like this year we had local farmers grow hops for us. They've been so used to growing, you know, cash crops and stuff, and we're, you know, getting them to, you know, go into growing different stuff.
So you're affecting the local economy as well.
Huge.
Right?
This year we had a farmer in Flamborough go acres and acres of hops for us, and we made series of beers, and we call them our wet hop series, because we usually have to buy hops from other provinces or countries, and they're pelletized and they're dry. But it's like any herb. If you know, grow your own herbs, and you know, working with real fresh basil opposed to dry, it's night and day. And these beers came out immensely more flavorful, and we call them our wet hop series. And there's places that love that stuff. Like we've got bars all over Hamilton and Guelph and Kitchener-Waterloo, London, Toronto, Milton. You know that they want, you know, what's new, what's exciting, what beer did you make with local ingredients, and it
sells. People want to support the local economy, but also now let's talk a little bit about price point, because I'm Smart Surf. I bartend at our local curling club where we sell Nickelbrook beer. I think we have 2 or 3 different varieties.
Yeah, you have 3 right now.
And I know that initially the price is a little bit less than the other beers. Like
we're not dumping the money in the marketing.
Well, see, then you don't have to, right? Because you're not charging.
We can't.
You're not spending this big money on marketing. But initially that's what may attract people. But I think what keeps them coming back to the brand is the fact that they really like the product.
After a little while, and it's something that it takes time to grow. And a lot of people, hate to say it, people get into a certain, rut in their life, and I get this all day long. They name a brand and they'll say, I'm really sorry, Sonny, but I've been drinking this beer for 50 years. And they don't realize that, over the course of the past 50 years, it's been made worse and worse and worse. And there's very little barley in the product anymore. And you have to convince them slowly to try it and try it. And then when they do convert, they're like, wow, I cannot believe, this is great beer, I love it. It's fresh, it's made local. Like last night, one of our customers called me. She was having trouble with their keg. She has a keg system at home. I drove to her home. She couldn't believe it.
Let's see, the president of Labatt do that, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
It's that personal hands-on touch.
And if the Milton Curling Club called me right now and said, John, we're out of beer, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drive back to Burlington, fill up the truck with beer, and bring you beer. And that's what we do.
See, I think there's a real need for that. Certainly, you found a combination between value at price point, good price point, and being able to pass on the savings that you're not buying Super Bowl commercials to the end user, and then you've got a product that keeps them coming back because they like it. So
like I love shopping at little grocery stores that are family run. I love going into family restaurants. A lot of the chains, a lot of that's lost, right? They're all, I hate to say it, but a lot of them the staff are there, they're working there for the tips and stuff, or, owner coming down and having, a chat with you and maybe a drink with you at the end of your meal. Like, that's amazing.
Okay, so this is a great segue into the Python's Pit scenario, because you're going to be dealing with people who have a lot of passion, who have come up with an idea, and they've nurtured this idea, and they've brought it along and maybe thought about it for years, and now they're going to have a vehicle to be able to get that in front of some potential investors and some mentors, and then maybe get out into the market. So with regards to the Python Pit, what do you think is going to be the most fulfilling part for you?
Well, I'm hoping that we can help young kids to do what I've done, be successful at something that you love to do and are passionate about it. And if I can mentor a young person to be successful at what they're doing, that's an incredible accomplishment. Going to work is a wonderful thing, and I started doing a lot of community service work years ago, and it's other self-fulfillment, right? And I love working with kids. I've had several kids that I've mentored, like they start working for me when they're 13, and they stay with me till they're in their mid-20s.
That speaks volumes, first of all, because just to be able to retain people for that long is huge, but it speaks volumes to the corporate philosophy as well.
My average employee's been with me for 15 to 20 years.
That's fantastic.
And I'll hire, if you came to Nickelbrook right now, you'll meet 2-3 kids that started working with us when they were 13, and they're like second-year university or third-year college, or
wow.
Yeah, we work hard to keep our staff. Training's expensive, and why? Like I want longevity in my people.
Right. So Python's Pit. So you're looking forward to having the opportunity?
I can't wait, and I'm hoping that I can maybe find a Python that would maybe fit into the umbrella of Nickelbrook, and something that, a service or an idea that we can embrace and possibly be one of their first customers.
You never know what's going to come out of something like this. The next big thing could be right at the end of your fingertips. And you guys invest your own money too, right? This isn't some dog and pony show. No. I mean, you guys are actually going to be hands-on with your own cash in their mentoring.
Our time and
yeah, well, congratulations.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Good on you. I think it's fantastic that you're getting involved with this, and it certainly goes along with trying to build your brand at the same time. I think they all go hand in hand. How many different beers do you have right now?
We probably have too many beers. We have about 10 beers.
10 beers. And where can our viewers buy them? At liquor store?
Liquor stores, and if you don't see it, you're my best sales rep, because I go in, I'm just another pain in the butt, salesman, and a customer is a paying, individual. You're spending your money.
Get in there, ask for it.
And
right?
don't just ask anybody. Ask to speak to the manager like you're their boss and say, I want to speak to the manager now, and say, how come I don't see Nickel Brook
Why
on
don't
the
you have
shelf?
Nickel Brook here? Okay,
And
so
I'm
and all
telling
our
you, I've
viewers
gotten
can do
business
that.
from it.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show. It's been
Thanks
a
for
real
having
pleasure
us.
meeting you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Tune in every week to watch Wallets on Wellness, only on TV Cogeco.
Hundreds of Canadian letter carriers are injured each year due to falls on icy private walkways. Not to mention countless other Canadians. This year, please keep your walkway clear of snow and ice-free.
For the safety of you, me, and everybody.
You're watching TV Cogeco, truly local television.
And we're back. Thanks very much for staying with us. Well, John Romano, Better Bitters Brewing Company and Nickel Brook Breweries. Great to see him here, and really a success story. He went from nothing, building something right from scratch up to an incredible success, and couldn't make a better Python, because certainly there's people that he's going to come in contact with that are in the exact same boat, and who better to understand and help you grow than somebody who's been there. So it's March 23rd at the Ron Joyce Auditorium, DeGroote School of Business down in Burlington. You need to be there. It's going to be a great day. So my name's Jamie Krane. This has been Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. Thanks for joining us. See you again next week.
Watch and play Optimus TV Bingo right here